Greetings, Canyon View Cell Groups. Thank you so much for being here with us. Hey, are you ready for the 7th group video in our Daniel series? Now here's a quick preview of what to expect in this video. We will talk for just a couple minutes on Daniel 7, and then we will have a few questions we want you guys to go over as a group. Our hope is that this will inspire great, focused conversations in all our groups, which will help us learn about Jesus and what it means to be a disciple. You got it? All right. Let's get into Daniel chapter 7. So last week in chapter 6, we discovered the very difficult position into which Daniel had been placed. King Darius had been manipulated into passing a law that prohibited any citizen from praying to any god other than Darius. The evildoers knew that Daniel regularly prayed to the one true God, which would be in violation of the king's new law. They saw Daniel praying, and of course, were all too eager to tell the king about it. A basic provision in Babylonian law was that once a law was put into place, it could not be repealed. So Darius was stuck in the position of having to have Daniel executed. Now, fortunately, God is not bound by the requirements of men and lovingly rescued Daniel from the jaws of lions. Chapter 7 begins with another vision and launches us into the prophetic section of the book of Daniel. You'll notice a shift in the writing starting in this chapter. And we have to read this section of the book through different lenses as it's less historical, like the first 6 chapters were, and now becomes prophetic, which does require us to read it and interpret it differently. So does that make sense? Okay, so 7 starts with a very similar vision to that which was given in Daniel chapter 2. But this time, it goes much deeper. This is a terrifying vision that deeply troubled our friend Daniel. In verse 2 of Daniel's vision, he sees the 4 winds of heaven churning up the great sea. The great sea probably refers to the physical world of kingdoms and people. The fact that the 4 winds of heaven were causing the churning points to the fact that God is involved in the rising and falling of these kingdoms. The first kingdom, described in verse 4, was like that of a lion with wings of an eagle. Now, when the wings were torn off, the vision foreshadows the humbling of King Nebuchadnezzar when he spent 7 years with the mind of an animal. You remember that from chapter 4? Now, the second beast was like a bear on its side and refers to the superior status of the Persians in the Mede-Persian alliance. Now, the next beast was like that of a leopard with 4 wings. Now, that symbolizes the rapid conquests of Alexander the Great and the 4 lieutenants who subsequently divided his kingdom into 4 parts after his death. The fourth beast, with its large iron teeth, can be interpreted several ways. In chapter 2, it referred to the great power of Rome. Now here in chapter 7, it can refer to the whole world system, modeled after Rome, which opposes the righteous reign of God. Now the 10 horns correspond to the 10 toes of the golden statue of chapter 2. And they can also be symbolic of great national authority and power. The little horn, with the eyes of a man and a big mouth, eliminated 3 of the powers and began to speak boastfully. The little horn represents the Antichrist, or another worldly power opposing God. Now the scene changes abruptly in verse 9 as Daniel sees heaven invading earth and God seating himself on the throne of heaven, acting as a judge. The images are similar to those found in Revelation and Ezekiel. The books being open refers to the great white throne judgment of Revelation 20. Now, isn't it crazy how these visions line up even though they were hundreds of years apart? So the underlying idea here is that while the little horn with the big mouth may be spouting off, God is setting up a final ruling. Now, verse 11 shows the result of God's judgment, with the beast being killed and thrown into the lake of fire. And verse 13 is the first reference to Jesus as the Son of Man. His kingdom is everlasting and will never pass away or be destroyed. The interpretation of the vision begins with verse 15 as Daniel approached an angel and asked for an understanding of the dream. The fourth beast is a worldly kingdom modeled after that of the Roman Empire at the time of Christ. And from this worldly kingdom will come a very powerful leader who will destroy three opposing kingdoms, speak out against God, and oppress God's people. The application of this chapter to our current time is found in verse 21. It says, "As I watched, this horn, or the Antichrist, was waging war against the saints and defeating them until the Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in favor of the saints." Now, the length of time the Antichrist will oppose the saints is revealed in verse 23. Time, and half a time refers to a 3.5-year period mentioned in Daniel 12 and is generally thought of as the tribulation. Now, verse 26 has God's court rendering a guilty verdict for the Antichrist and his kingdom, which will be thrown into the lake of fire. The kingdom of God will then be established and turned over to the saints forever. So after a 3.5-year period of tribulation and hardship, God intervenes, destroys the Antichrist, and restores his people. Okay, so if that doesn't scramble your brain, I don't know what will. So just keep in mind, through all of this, the main point is, God is in control. We are to trust in Him, and He will take care of His people. All right, deep breath, and let's get to the questions we have for you guys. Remember, I'll read the question and then give you an opportunity to pause the video while you guys discuss. Then when you're all ready, hit play and move on to the next. Okay? Question 1. What are some descriptions of the Antichrist from Daniel 7, 1 through 14? Feel free to pause here and discuss. Okay, moving on to question 2. How does the description of the Ancient of Days differ in Daniel 7, 9 through 10, and Revelation 13, 4 through 9? Feel free to push pause. Okay, third question. Read Mark 14:62. What is your reaction to what Daniel saw compared to what Jesus said? Feel free to push pause. All right. Bonus fourth question, if you have time. Read Daniel 4:18. What thoughts and feelings do you have from this statement? Now push pause. Hey, great job, gang. Thanks for dipping your toe into the prophetic section of this book. The next few weeks are going to be a wild ride, so hang on to your hats. I want you to know we love you guys and are praying for you daily. See you next time.